He was a conniving, vicious, cold-blooded, remorseless, evil, and extremely dangerous killer.
On the morning of March 11th, 2005, a courtroom in Atlanta turned into a scene of terror when Brian Nichols, a man on trial for rape, overpowered a deputy, stole her gun, and unleashed a deadly rampage that would leave 4 people dead and an entire city on edge. What followed was a 26-hour manhunt, a hostage situation, and an ending no one saw coming.
There will be nothing that I want from that, really, other than to express my remorse for the things that I've done.
His intuition of a guilty verdict was fueled by desperation. During the first trial, he had been found with self-made shanks, revealing that he was ready to use force. The jury could not make a unanimous decision on whether he was guilty or not, so he was being retried. A fateful day came, and in the cell adjacent to the courtroom hall where he was being held, Nichols overtook Deputy Cynthia Hall, who had been assigned to guard him. He attacked Hall mercilessly, leaving her almost dead after breaking her skull and taking away her gun. Thus, he ended up having a firearm, something that would cause the deadliest shooting ever witnessed in an American courtroom.
Was facing a rape trial in March 2005 when he overpowered a deputy sheriff, stole her gun, and entered the courtroom where he was.
The judge presiding over his case, Judge Roland Barnes, first saw the fugitive. As Nichols walked into the courtroom, he took out a gun and shot Judge Barnes without hesitating. Courthouse screams of terror caused chaos in the room. Afterward, Nichols targeted and then shot and killed Julianne Brandow, a court reporter. Without delay, he stormed through the different floors, searching for those who stood as his barricades. The decorated sheriff's deputy, Hoyt Teasley, also tried to step in front of him and stop him, but it was too late since he too was shot down by Nichols. In just minutes, Nichols had murdered 3 people.
He managed to escape. In the chaos that followed, Nichols carjacked several vehicles, evading law enforcement and creating widespread panic throughout the city.
This led to a rapid spread of fear since Nichols, who was armed, walked freely, causing alarm all over. Therefore, the local authorities started a hunt, closing the streets and deploying choppers as they warned the people to remain inside. While escape velocity from here increased, the situation only got more complicated. But that was not the end because, with darkness falling upon Atlanta, David Wilhelm was shot dead by Nichols on that fateful day.
All day on the run, and that evening he went to a home in Buckhead and shot a federal agent before stealing his gun and pickup truck.
He then made off with Wilhelm's pickup truck as he continued trying to elude justice. The city of Atlanta was now gripped by fear as residents anxiously followed updates on the growing manhunt of Brian Nichols. News stations broadcast warnings, and police were stationed at every major intersection, hoping to catch Nichols before he could kill again. But just when it seemed that a measure of advantage might be on the side of Nichols, the story got a surprising twist. Desperate and running away, Nichols broke into an apartment belonging to Ashley Smith, a young woman aged 26 who was fighting her own battles. Her husband had died being stabbed to death, and she tried to rebuild her shattered life because of her minor daughter. Nichols forcefully entered the apartment, pointing a gun at her, creating a perception that Ashley Smith would die in a tragic style. However, what happened next was quite extraordinary.
Duluth, and that is where he pushed his way into the apartment of a woman named Ashley Smith. Smith had never met Nichols, but as he held her hostage, she was able to talk him into surrendering the next day.
She took pictures of her daughter and started reading extracts from Rick Warren's The Purpose-Driven Life. She spoke to him about forgiveness, redemption, and finding a new path in life. Nichols and Smith opened up to each other against all possible odds. However, this was not easy for Nichols, who was emotionally torn between escaping and facing the consequences. Nichols started telling Smith about himself, despite everything. He opened up about his horrible past, the personal fight with mental illness, as well as the dread of spending all his remaining years as a prisoner. Smith sensed that Nichols had changed. She connected with his human nature, convincing him that there's no need to kill anymore, and he should just give himself up without additional killings. In a surprising turn of events, these words hit home. Nichols spent nearly 7 hours in Smith's apartment before eventually deciding to turn himself in. After making a call to the police for help, Smith directed Nichols how to do it, and he gave himself up quietly without offering any resistance, so the city could breathe again because the 26-hour nightmare was finally over. Ashley Smith showed exceptional courage during the ordeal, and many people could not help but argue that were it not for her intervention, Nichols may not have been stopped. Upon being charged to court for his crimes, Nichols was faced with a highly charged atmosphere. The case was made worse by the fact that the prosecution called for a death sentence, claiming that murder was pre-planned and maliciously executed. Nonetheless, the defendant's team posited that the alleged killer was mentally unwell, having acted out because he was distraught emotionally or psychologically warped by life's events. They, however, cited some points from the accused's past, such as drug addiction or some form of mental issues, acquainted history, that explained the reasons behind his actions. The jury did not buy any of these explanations that were offered in defense of this accused person before finding the defendant guilty on several accounts, including murder, kidnapping, armed robbery, and aggravated assault. He was sentenced to 11 life sentences without the possibility of parole, plus an additional 385 years for his crimes.
I hereby sentence Mr. Nichols to 20 years to serve, consecutive to counts 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and 32. Count 35 is another armed robbery count, and you know by now the armed robbery carries a life imprisonment, and I'm going to give him the maximum of a life imprisonment. That is consecutive to counts 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 32, and 33. None of this will be served on probation. I'm not planning on giving Mr. Nichols any probation at all. Neither am I planning on giving him a fine. Even though you may not like Mr. Nichols.
After the prosecution, the lead prosecutor, Kelly Hill, broke down with tears in her eyes.
We fought for justice, for 4 wonderful people, 4 innocent people.
Families and loved ones of the victims were not satisfied by the sentence. Anything short of the death penalty was seen as a failure of the justice system. Here is what the daughter of the slain court reporter had to say.
My family and I watched in horror and disgust while Nichols' entire defense team stomped all over the justice system.
Also, the wife of the federal agent who was Nichols' last victim said this.
Brian Nichols' parents raised an extremely evil person.
The courtroom gunfire of the Brian Nichols case is one of the most famous in American history. Following that, it was revamped on security measures in the courtrooms. In a bid to ensure that such tragedy never occurs again, national courthouses adopted the use of metal detectors, armed guards, and rigorous protocols. The experience was life-changing for Ashley Smith, who helped stop Nichols' killing spree. She would eventually author a book detailing her ordeal, which later became a film under the title Captive.
I told him, I said, it's going to take more of a man to walk out of this apartment and pay for what you did than it is to go out of this apartment with guns and lose your life over. So the choice is yours.
Important issues are raised by Brian Nichols' case on mental health, violence, and security in the criminal justice system. It highlights the dire need for improved security measures within and beyond the courtroom to prevent such events from happening again. The case also raises important questions about how society addresses the struggles of individuals who feel cornered and desperate. However, amidst the chaos and violence, this story also reveals the incredible strength of the human spirit and the transformative power of compassion. Ashley Smith's courage and empathy in the face of imminent danger turned a deadly manhunt into a peaceful resolution. Her ability to connect with Nichols, to show him an alternative path, and to inspire a moment of reflection demonstrates that even in the darkest moments, a glimmer of hope and humanity can shine through. That's it for today's crime story. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more true crime stories that will leave you on the edge of your seat.